changes to her and fix some long-term bugs that were kind of nice to get rid of.
And what do you think of her current state? How strong is she in the 1.3 patch?
She's actually pretty strong. She's got some changes that need to be made because she's got so many redundant skills, and she still has some bugs that are dealt with. But she is really strong. She's got basically a skill that leeches life off of all the other ones, and gives her, basically she's very survivable because of that. And then she's got some other benefits that help her do some other things. So. She's good at AoE, and she's probably one of the best at X defense because of her confusion skill, which, especially at higher ranks, there comes a point where it's better to have the mobs attacking each other than it is for you to attack. So the confusion skill at that point is really nice. The other day, some guildies were running, and somebody on their Scarlet Witch had Rhino basically charmed, and he took out Living Laser in I think 3 charges or something. So it's pretty crazy.
Can you actually charge bosses then as well with it?
Yeah, you want to max it out because you want the duration to be long because they get reduced duration. So they don't get very much if you don't max that bewildering hex. So you definitely want to max that. I mean, my duration is 11.8 seconds right now, and it gives them 160% damage. So when you got those really high damage, and then you're adding to that, plus sometimes those bosses are the best damage you can do at higher ranks of that. So that's definitely a pretty good benefit there.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I was talking about it as well sometimes during my streams, that the only way you can survive the higher waves is if you have something that scales as well as the mobs, and the only thing that is confusion or mind control or something like that, because all your other abilities, there comes a point where you just cannot win. But this is, yeah, can you get like infinite waves that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably going to fail at some point because you can't chain the bosses quite. I mean, they do have a period where they're immune after so long, but and at that point, eventually if they do enough damage, they're just going to blow through it. And there's also a point where anything new spawns might kill you before you even get a chance to charm it. So I don't think it's infinite, but you can definitely, I think she definitely enables you to go higher than probably is intended in the game. The skill's probably a little bit overpowered at that point, but that's more because of the way that instance scales than the skill itself. But it's still a really, really strong skill in other things because it mitigates damage and allows you to basically just open up your DPS on stuff instead of having to worry about taking damage and mitigating it other ways.
Well, while we go to the training room, one last question is, well, how do you think she evolved since start? And do you think they take the right path? And do you know what's coming for her in the coming patches? What are they working on?
They're working on an update for her. Like I said, she's got some skills that aren't very good. A lot of redundant skills, and some of those are still tied to synergies. So, for example, there's one where there's 2 fear skills, and they both have synergies that depend on the other one. So even, it's hard to justify putting the points into one fear skill, let alone 2 of them. So that part's really kind of needs to be changed. But she's evolved pretty well. I mean, she's kind of underrated. A lot of people, I think part of it is the starter thing. People look at her and go, oh, she's a starter, she's not going to be very good. There's kind of a bias built in with that, I think. But she's pretty strong in her own right.
Yeah, for me, she is she is one of the heroes that I would really like to play a lot, but I just never get there because I do all these requests and everything. But I always said it's one of my favorite heroes, and it's actually the favorite hero of David Brevik as well. He always says that, so that's quite funny.
Yeah, I think she's a lot of fun, and her power rating has gone up recently too. So I think that's always good.
And she's very unique in her playstyle, I think, which makes her a great asset to the game.
She is. I mean, early on she lacked any movement deal, and I know a lot of people had issues with that. I wasn't necessarily one of them because she's got a lot of benefit elsewise, where she can, before she has a lot of tools in her toolbox. She's definitely the ultimate toolbox hero. She can kind of set up and prevent just about anything, whether it's, the ground AoEs, the things like that. But the teleport does give her a different added dimension that's definitely really nice as far as both getting around the map and avoiding, those sticky situations.
Yes. I have my power trees open, and the first tree is the decimation tree. And there we have the 2 basics. And last time I played, I haven't played it for a bit, there were 3 basics. So now they have 2. And one just gives the mental damage, and the other one gives spirit restoration. Is it worth to max them, or do you just have 1 point in them? What's your basic build like?
Some people max the bewitching, some don't. If anything, just to get the spirit back, and you get more spirit the higher the rank. It's definitely not a high DPS skill for me. I actually rarely use it. The other basic that was there got switched to a spirit consume, and it's actually your main DPS skill right now. It's pretty crazy, and there's a bug with an artifact that basically treats it as a basic, other than the it still costs spirit, but you get some of the basic procs, which is really kind of nice with certain gear, because you can get spirit back that way. But it's a bug that's probably going to be fixed. So currently you can run pretty much without the bewitching hex, but I think eventually you're probably going to need that, if anything, just to get your spirit back quick, because she's got a really high spirit pool and she doesn't really have any inherent regen other than that skill. So filling up, I have 669 spirit right now. Filling that back up just with the base regen is not going to work very well.
Yeah, that's going to take you a while. Then the hex orb you have. Sorry. In your build, you have just 1 point there then, because you use spirit regen.
I have 10 just to get more when I do need to use it. More spirit, but it's not really as a damage skill, and it's not used that much. But the chaotic hex is basically my basic attack. That's what I use on my left mouse button and everything.
I'm trying to find it. There it is. So chaotic bolt, is it because of what is the rating of the damage rating of that skill? Does it scale well? Higher ranks.
Well, it does. I mean, I've got about 4,000 average damage per bolt, but the best part about it is you get higher, you have a higher chance to fire another bolt, and you can fire up to 5. So mine right now, I have a 58% chance to fire another bolt. So when I do it, more than half the time I'm going to get at least 2 bolts. So that's, almost 10,000 or 8,000 to 10,000 damage. And then that second bolt has another 52 or 58% chance to proc a third bolt, and it can go up to 5 bolts. So you can really get a lot of damage out of that just doing that. I can kind of show you here real quick.
Yeah, that was my next question.
And another nice thing too is they hone in. So sorry, my big guy there. But as you shoot there, you can see some. As I'm firing more, you can see they hone in on the target, so it's really kind of nice there. I don't know if you can see the big guy there off the proc on my item, but my health bar says that he's a raptor hatchling. I think that's a mislabel there.
Well, from what item is that?
That's her. And they also drop loot when they die, so that's always good. That's from her unique gloves. They have a proc that does that. They're full of a lot of procs, and that's one of them.
How many can you get at one time?
Just one of each of those. If you proc another one, the first one dies. Which, as you can see, if they drop late, you could actually just sit in here and spam that spell all day long and eventually proc more and more of them. But it'd be kind of boring for me. But it is kind of a bug that they probably ought to fix, because there's some. I've seen splinters drop off of it and a lot of other stuff. So you could set up a macro and just AFK and just collect splinters all day long, or bot, So it's something that they need to fix.
Yeah, that sounds exploitable.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't really say that on a live stream, but they're pretty good about fixing bugs, and they're not going to hammer people that bring them up, because they actually find out more about them than other games that try to keep everything hush hush all the time.
Yeah, they're very open in their communication that way, and they will let you let you know instantly when they're gonna fix it on the forums as well. Let's continue. The is the hex orb is giving you the stun. I don't think it's that worth it. It used to be that combusting hex was your main damage dealer. Is that still true for AoE, or are you doing it differently?
I do it differently. Some people run at max, some run 1 point. I did run 1 point, but I just ran out of so many hotbars, and I've kind of even backed out of that. But it's not as good as some of the other options, I feel. Other people do run it, so I guess it's not too bad. But I just run more of the other dots that stick with the target as it moves instead of the one that just hits everything in a certain area.
Okay. Reality Implosion or Chaos Warp, do you use any of these?
A lot of people use Reality Implosion a lot. It's not one of my favorites. It is nice that it pulls everything in one area, and so that your AoEs and stuff can hit them better. But I find generally, once again, it's probably more of an issue of hotbar space for me than anything. But I can still, blow through most of the stuff anyways. I generally just sit in the middle of a pile that's charmed, and they come to me anyways. So it doesn't help as much for the range mods, but that's about it.
Okay. What does your build look like then? So you have the Chaotic Hex maxed as your main attack, and what else do you have?
Most of my other max stuff is over in the Disruption chain. I max the Chaos Magic, which is the passive that does a lot of different stuff, includes adding Spirit to your pool, and it can slow bosses and stuff like that. It can weaken them so they do less damage. It adds a vulnerability that makes them take more damage from every hit. So it does a lot of different stuff, and it's all kind of a percent chance based, but it's really nice. The Ravenous Binding is the one that you get health back, plus it does a dot, so that's really nice there. That's your sustainability and DPS. And then to get better health out of it, you can max Hex Binding, so you get better health skill out of the first one. Plus Hex Binding itself does about the same DPS as Ravenous, so I pretty much chain those two for my AoE DPS, and then do the everything else. And then, like I said, I max Bewildering for the longer confusions, which really helps with bosses. And then I've got a lot of 1 point stuff throughout. And like I said, I had 10 in the Bewildering, and I've got about 10 in the Teleport, because it does some damage too. So, plus it increases the range that you can teleport. So you can sit there in a group as you're, letting the dots tick and stuff, and you can just hit that teleport every second and add quite a bit to your damage.
Yeah, another question pops into my mind is that some people might be interested about is how does your action bar look, and do you actually use the F keys to change, or your hotkeys? How does your action bar look and stuff?
Well, a lot of mine are programmed to buttons on my mouse because I have a Razer Naga, so it's kind of hard to say this is what I use because it's quite a bit different than the default. But I've got on my main one, I've got the both of those dots, the Ravenous and the Hex Binding. I've got the Confusion. I've got the Chaotic Hex. I've got the Teleport. I've got the Orb that prevents or reflects all damage, so a lot of times I'll cast that on me, and all range damage gets rejected back. And then I've got the Bewitching on there, so that's it for there. And then I do use the other ones for a few situational and one-of things, like the toggle, the thing that gets rid of like Electro's deals and makes you not take damage from Magneto's AoE, all those force stuff. It's now a toggle, which is really nice. That came actually just out of the last patch, and that's a real big boost for just for hotbar space, because I can move that off to one of the F keys, and I run a few other ones too that way that are on the F keys. Just kind of the one-of stuff, the skills that add a vulnerability that I use on bosses, I have on some F keys and stuff. So
yeah, do you also use entropic warding, for example, on the hood?
Yeah, the ranged one. Yeah, that's the one I just cast here. That I use that quite a bit. It reflects all incoming damage. So it's great in Doom Part 1 and 3, Hood. It's great when you're sitting in a large group of mobs, and like I said, I don't use Implosion to pull them in. Part of that is because I kind of want them outside of my entropic warding. Another reason is, because I don't use that, I can't pull them in and confuse them as well and stuff like that. So